Hey everybody, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing and unboxing, with the help of this cat, the Ultimate Robocop from NECA. But first, I want to talk about Squarespace. No, I'm just kidding. Let's get to the review! Ultimate Robocop by NECA. So, just do a brief overview here of the packaging itself. Aside from the front, which is the original movie poster. The NECA team, their photography is always on point, and any additional details that you may be interested in. And obviously, a lot of respect for the team here. When you open the flap, which is a huge advantage to NECA products, is that you get to see the figure. Really nice shot here, all the bits and pieces, but a lot of glare in this, so let's open it up and see what we got. Let's get all of these accessories out. And this style connection is very typical for NECA. So it's a plastic piece, it's kind of bent. If you're lucky enough, you can actually pull them out, straighten them, and pop them through. So if you ever want to actually get it back in the box and not have it rattling around. There we go, we got it. As you can see, the strap is still intact. And while I say that, it's probably impossible to get your fingers in there to do that, but whatever, at least we tried. All right, we're gonna get into an overview here of the figure and the accessories. Incredibly movie accurate. We're gonna get some shots put up here that you can reference on screen to see the difference between this and the movie. Really looks like Peter Weller. Incredibly basic weapons. The sniper rifle, an alternate hand, and then the muzzle flash. All right, so here we can see incredible detail in this figure. Even the text in his helmet is visible. The coloring is honestly fantastic. While those parts are airbrushed to kind of simulate the highlights of the light blue and the purple, it comes off really, really well in the lighting. I mean, it honestly looks like it is part of the material reflecting more so than a straight up paint job. Speaking of paint job, so on this one, there's a particular issue. The paint has been chipped, or a black mark happened to hit right there on the arm. I mean, just look at this. And again, I mean, it really looks like Peter Weller. If you get into the unmasked helmet, face detection on the camera is working and even tracking his eyes. All the little pieces here in the back of the helmet. The problems I'm having with this figure so far are in the accessories. For an Ultimate figure, these are incredibly boring. Now, the upsides, I mean, the tripods are functional. They snap in, so you don't have to worry about them necessarily breaking off. Some highlighted detail pieces would actually be in the scope. There are colors here, obviously the gray, but there's a little red and yellow dot. One of the best parts about it is probably this strap. I mean, it works really well. But we'll pop up, add to the screen, and if we can find like a movie version of this, and see how accurate it is to the prop. Maybe the original movie was boring looking too. But even the pistol was way cooler looking in the movie. There's no paint to it. It's really just like a kind of semi-gloss black plastic. Another advanced detail piece though would be in the alternate hand. So that looks pretty good. Obviously both dangerous and potentially easy to break. The muzzle flash, yeah, we'll put that up on screen too from the movie, but something famous about his gun is that it had the flash, it would come off from the side as well. Maybe with some right lighting, this thing would look cool, but this looks like alien slime or something. I would expect like a little bit of like an amber tone to it or something. I mean, you have the two hands for that side, but you can't change this hand. It's just is always that shape. Let's swap out that head. So they do just pull off just a ball joint. It's pretty straightforward. Good old Peter Weller. The figure itself, maybe you saw in the detail shots, there's this little lever, which it's kind of a bummer, but most people are probably not going to be staring at his back end here. So when you flip this, you get where his gun pops out in the movie. So pretty cool. I mean, obviously you can see the springs and stuff if you look at it from the right angle. So I don't know if there's a way for this specifically to go into the leg, but It kind of... All right, well, for trying way too long, it doesn't seem like that has any way to mount in there, despite all these little tabs. If you figured it out, please let me know. I would love to see what's supposed to happen there. But let's get it in to his hand. Closing this is spring loaded. That's where the springs are. It's where you're gonna wanna put the pressure is like right against those springs themselves, and then just be delicate with this other piece here. Very sensitive. Getting this thing to close properly. There we go. A couple things to notice. Articulation. Let's get into that, right? Before we get into posing. So head, a lot of functionality there. Just a ball joint. Doesn't have anything on the back of his head really that stops him. So he can move pretty freely. Now it is Robocop, so we shouldn't expect a ton of articulation because he couldn't do much moving in the movie itself. So what do we got? We got his shoulders. They rotate just fine. There's just a little bit of action here, in and out. There's no rotation. As far as you can't angle his arm on an axis. It just goes up and down and in and out. So that's pretty awful. It's gonna have this kind of more famous shot. I mean, you can't quite get the shoulder needs to come back further to really give him that pose that you get from the movie. As far as chest area, there's a little bit of wobbling here. So not a whole lot, but again, it's Robocop. You can rotate at the hips. Legs, yeah, not much. Pretty simple rotation. A little bit of leg spread. Not a lot. But looks like more of a ball joint that you're not getting in the arms. Knees bend really well. And then his ankles, obviously just up and down. Not a whole lot there. Now, the way this is set up, his right leg tends to have more play, more of a gap. Depending on the different poses you put him in, this leg just gets more gap in it than the rest. The wrists, full rotation of the wrists, which, you know, makes sense. All right, let's see if we can get into some nice movie poses. Typically has this kind of offset stance. He kind of always had this extra arm up. What was he doing with that hand? So, pose number one, pretty typical of the movie. Probably the best way to have him displayed, to be honest. Not a whole lot you can do with him. But let's try to get that movie poster from the box. That's about as close as you can get. And his head's the best part. There's no rotation in the wrist at all. This is blocked by his simulated muscles. It's as close to that movie poster as you can get. Obviously, no car, but not a lot of movement in the legs, which is fine. But that upper half, one of the worst figures that I've experienced as far as articulation goes. All right, so for details, I'm gonna give him, honestly, a 5 out of 5 for the figure itself. The accessories, pretty awful. So we'll knock the overall detail down to a 4.5 out of 5, which is pretty fair. We're putting a lot of weight into the details of the figure itself. Now, as far as articulation, I'm gonna give this, it's gotta be like a 2 out of 5. The articulation's god-awful, even for somebody like Robocop. Just some basic stuff, just trying to get those basic shots out of the movie. It's not gonna happen. As far as posing, you're limited. I mean, what else can you do other than that famous kind of shot? So there he is in really the ideal pose. So overall pose rating, I'm gonna give it also a 2 out of 5 because it's pretty awful. But it all comes down to the detail work, and that's all he's got going for him. So there we have it, Robocop by NECA, and here is where I scored everything and the overall score. So what do you think? Did this Ultimate Robocop from NECA meet your expectations? And is this something that you plan on picking up? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
I'd buy that for $1.